A lot of people who don't always speak out have stepped up here. LeBron James, who has spoken out a lot in the past, but other prominent athletes and entertainers stepping into the world of politics now, starting a new group to protect black voting rights ahead of the 2020 election. The organization, called More Than a Vote, partly will be aimed at inspiring African Americans to register and vote in November. LeBron telling the New York Times he plans to use his high-profile platform on social media to combat voter suppression and would be vocal about drawing attention to any attempt to restrict the franchise of racial minorities. Some other current and former basketball stars joining in on the effort include Trae Young, Skylar Diggins-Smith, and Jalen Rose. James also said he wants to be a model for future generations, saying in part, "I'm inspired by the likes of Muhammad Ali. I'm inspired by the Bill Russells and the Kareem Abdul-Jabbars, the Oscar Robertsons, those guys who stood when the times were even way worse than they are today. Hopefully, someday down the line, people will recognize me not only for the way I approach the game of basketball, but the way I approach life as an African American man." That's a quote from LeBron James. Michael Steele, this, as I said, not new to LeBron James. In 2014, around Eric Garner's death, he wore "I Can't Breathe" T-shirt on the floor and inspired other players. When the biggest star in the league is doing it, everyone else can do it as well. He has spoken out, but I think we've also seen people that we don't always see speak out because they're worried about alienating certain constituencies, whether they're athletes or entertainers, are now coming out and saying, we have seen enough. We have to use these massive platforms, our massive celebrity, to make change in this country.
Yeah, I welcome LeBron's voice in this conversation, particularly as a lot of us are on the front lines fighting for vote by mail and a process this November that will allow unfettered access to the ballot box. Some may criticize LeBron and say, well, you're now at a point in your career where you can make these statements and you can risk something. But this is not that. This isn't about what's in your bank. And in the last line of his quote is the important part of it. This is who I am as a black man in America. And as a black man in America in this moment, I need to stand with other black men and women. I have to stand with my community to assert our rights under this Constitution. And if I have the platform and the voice to do that, then I'm obligated and committed to doing that. And that's a very powerful statement. And it has risk that goes beyond the wallet. And so for him and others to move into this space at this time, Willie, I think is significant. And it is a paradigm change on so many levels. The impact that the death of one man, George Floyd, has had across not just the politics of this nation, but the culture, the economics, and how we see ourselves. And so welcome, LeBron, and may others join you in raising their voices for this effort.
Aaron Haynes, I would love your take on this. I mean, there definitely is a sense that this has been an issue for clearly a long time, and it hasn't been heard. And the frustration has now boiled over, and to have megastars like this jump into the fray could really be impactful. We had Madeleine Albright on the show yesterday, and she is extremely concerned that the elections go well. This is another space where major black celebrities and impactful stars can make a difference and perhaps change the course of history.
Absolutely, Mika. And, you seeing LeBron, starting this voting rights group at a time where voter suppression, voting rights, access to the ballot box, and people being able to participate safely in our democracy are on the minds of many Americans, including African Americans who we know are disproportionately dying of coronavirus and want to be able to safely participate in our democracy. Listen, I mean, Oprah Winfrey had a 2-night special on race relations in America and where we go from here. Race and racism, as I've said repeatedly, are on the ballot for people in 2020. I think that is something that we are seeing as an important political issue for the folks who have been in the streets protesting for much of this month. And I think that is going to carry into November. Listen, I interviewed Stacey Abrams last night for Six and I, and talk to her about what happened in the Georgia primary last night, which I think alarmed a lot of Americans, to what they saw on Tuesday night, voters in hours-long lines. I mean, that was a debacle of our democracy. And I think that, you're seeing what I heard from her was that, there are too many folks who have normalized the idea that they should have to wait in a long line, showing up with water bottles and snacks and extra phone chargers, expecting to be in line for hours and hours. That is not normal in our democracy, and it should not be normal. But I think it's amazing how many Black Americans are really willing to put their careers, their celebrity on the line in this moment. Bubba Wallace at NASCAR calling for Confederate flags to be gone from NASCAR. And here we have NASCAR saying in this moment that they will no longer have Confederate flags in their events. And so I think it is a remarkable time, and we're seeing so many people really putting their reputations on the line for change that they feel has to come now.
Thanks for checking out MSNBC on YouTube, and make sure you subscribe to stay up to date on the day's biggest stories. And you can click on any of the videos around us to watch more from Morning Joe and MSNBC. Thanks so much for watching.